Welcome to Durand On Demand. We've got another great question here. Usually what I'm finding is that when people are asking these questions, they're doing it in multiple ways. They're kind of sticking in 2 or 3 questions at one time within their question because it's kind of hard to get it out all in one. And so I'm trying to package that in as much as I can, but also keep these short and bite-sized for everybody here. So we are talking about 100 questions and 100 answers on how to build your business from 0 to 100 million or anywhere between. Again, my name is Dave Durand. If you do like this, go ahead and subscribe. You can leave comments below. You can even ask your question in the comment, or you can actually send it to durandondemand@gmail.com. Let's dive in. Let's see here. This one is, I do not have formal permission to say that this is, they can use the name, so I'm just going to use the first name. It is Jacob, and Jacob is asking this question. He's saying, hey, when do I make my first hire? How do I know what job it should be? Should it be admin, assistant, sales, operations, etc.? I noticed a lot of good small businesses get stuck around the $1 million mark. Why is that? How do I clear it? First of all, I would say I've made the same observation. I think that a lot of companies, and of course, if you've built a big business, this may not have been your experience, but in working with a lot of smaller businesses and medium-sized businesses, they get stuck under $1 million, and then at 10 million, and then usually I see that 10 to 100 million is a kind of a similar pattern. The answer to the question is, let me start philosophically and get into practical. Philosophically, when you build a business, you want to remember, and I might have said this early on in an earlier broadcast, that you want to make sure that you are increasing your responsibility as your organization grows, but diminishing your responsibilities as your organization grows. And if I have seen anything destroy a person, to prevent them from ever taking off, it's that they feel like they need to do everything for themselves. I mean, there are actually, one of the greatest examples of how that's not true is there are great artists. Now, you would think an artist, I have to do everything myself as the artist to create the art. No, artists that literally bring on other artists and they teach them how to do their look and their cue, and they're working with them, and it is their authentic art, because just like an architect doesn't have to raise the hammer, the artist doesn't have to do all of the stuff. They just have to have the design and then pull it through and put their signature on it that way. So if an artist can do that, an architect can do that. Even musicians that have somebody, write a song for them, but yet they're the musician, then you certainly can do this when you're building a business. So just remember this. If your responsibilities are the same this week as they were last week, you grew your business, it means you've increased your responsibility and you've maintained your responsibilities, you're going to choke yourself off at some point. You can't keep it up that way. So what do you dish off first? First of all, as an early entrepreneur in the early stages, anything that would be considered minimum wage work, stop it. Okay? If it's entry-level work or minimum wage work, somebody else can do it. Now, I've literally seen college grads and professionals whose entrepreneurs literally say, no one could do what I'm doing right here. And I've gone, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, you're 30 years old and you're saying nobody can do what you're doing right now. I could hire somebody that didn't even go to vocational school right out of high school, and I could teach them how to do that job in a week. Okay, now I know that I'm not trying to insult you, but no, there are many people can do it. We overestimate ourselves all the time. Oh, I am the only unique person that's qualified for this. Oh, no, there's not. There's a gazillion. Okay, so let's find that person. And the example that I gave of that one, by the way, we did exactly what I said and pulled in a few dozen others to do the same thing. And that particular person, who's an absolute rock star entrepreneur that I was working with, elevated to super high levels. He just didn't get the concept at first that his responsibility needed to go up, but his responsibilities needed to diminish, okay? So he was able to do that. Quick study, boom, huge results. So that's the thing that I would say is start with that. If there's basic entry-level work, find somebody that can do it. Why? There's all sorts of eager, smart, great people out there who are willing to grow, and they want to take a bite at something small at first, but let's not let our egos get in the way. You asked a question to kind of specifically go to it. And I would say, Jacob, very similar to most of the questions that I get, when I hear the way a person frames the question out, I can already say, you're going to figure this out. You ask the question right away. How do I know what job it should be? Admin, sales, operations, etc. So the first place that I would go would be, when you're tiny, would be admin, because most admin things in smaller businesses like that are pretty teachable. Okay, when you move into operations, and by the way, just so you know, I'm not diminishing administration even a little bit. Not at all. I'm just saying in the smaller, newer businesses, it doesn't take much more. To be an administrator, by the way, is to be a servant. It literally is. It is to administer to others. Now, the one thing that I would tell you is that a big mistake that administrators make when they delegate. Okay, if you're the owner of the business, you're saying administration needs to be right on. I'm going to rock it. I'm going to serve. I'm going to serve. But when you hire another administrator that doesn't have the ownership mentality that you have, they will oftentimes expect the field or the clients to make everything simple. So they're basically administering to the administrator. It doesn't work that way. Administrator has to have a servant's heart. It has to be that way. Their job is to make everyone else's life easy. And there are certain people who love that. They thrive on it. It makes them feel intense and great in the day. Others, no, not their thing. So there's a certain skill set to it. And as the organization grows, you have to do that. But I'd find a person with the heart of an administrator first, okay? And then if they don't have the aptitude or mind for it, you can maybe train it up or find somebody else to help with that when you get there. But I would go there. It's not to say that it's less important, but I would say in the smaller businesses, it's the easiest one to switch. Sales and operations are a little bit more complicated. Operations, you need... And administration is under operations. So just in case I'm offending people here, hopefully you get what I'm saying. Don't dice it up too thin. But operations is like you have to have this attitude of process and to really know process. Now, oftentimes they're going to be lumped kind of together. Sales will be separate. But sales is a little bit more like picking the quarterback or the wide receiver. That's got to be a person that has a particular skill that is pretty refined. Again, same with operations. And by the way, ultimately for the bigger organizations as you grow, same with admin. Just a simple entry-level thing. Take no offense. I know people can get sensitive to that sort of thing. So that's what I would do. Go admin first, okay? Go processes, and then go sales. Now, you may be saying, well, that's weird that you said that. Why go sales last? Well, there is a tendency to understand that if you are not a sales-oriented entrepreneur, okay, you're an entrepreneur who's like, listen, I hate sales. You probably would not have asked the question. Most people who are sales-oriented entrepreneurs, they have salesmanship about them, okay, they naturally are going to be selling. Little fact, the number one salesperson in small and medium-sized businesses, most of them across North America, is the CEO, the founder, the owner. They have the most influence, the most care. They know most about the product. They have the most drive. So they're the number one salesperson. Keep that in mind. But there are certain entrepreneurs, Bill Gates, for example, hates sales. And he openly talked about how he hated sales. He would never have asked, should I delegate sales? Because he would have been like, absolutely, I'm delegating sales. There's no way I'm doing it, okay? So if the person asks, should I do it, there's generally an inclination that they're good at it, even if they don't like it, and they're effective in it. So you may need to delegate the actual selling, but maybe not the recruiting, the training, and the development of the sales team right away, okay? Why? Because without sales, there's nothing. Sales heals all problems, basically, in business. You can figure out the rest, but if you don't put that lifeblood and that air into the business through sales, you don't have the luxury of fixing other things. If you're like, I mastered administration with no sales, okay, well, you're out of business. I mastered operations without sales, okay, well, you're out of business, okay? So that's why I would say admin first, okay? I would say operations probably second, and you can oftentimes combine the two in a simple salary for one person that can manage both. And then sales would be generally last. Now, at some point, if you're going to be the CEO and a builder of a business, you can't run sales, run administration, and run operations or run production. You have to have people who are fully in charge of each one of those things. But that's generally the approach that I would take. I am certain there are people who are going to disagree and say, well, I didn't do it that way. Fine. So what, you didn't. And good for you. And by the way, listen, if you're, the truth is the truth. If you killed it and you built your business in a different way, all I have to say is, way to rock. Your example is a good one. Show others. What I've seen from most people, though, is the pattern that I've provided you is the one that actually unlocks them from certain overwhelm and responsibilities and frees them up to see the bigger picture of the business. Keep that in mind. Have fun.